Hello.
Hey. So, hi everyone, I'm Jessica, and I spent the whole weekend reading my friend Debbie Soon's new book, Digital Mavericks, which I absolutely loved, and we're going to hear about today. So, Debbie, why don't you start us off by introducing yourself? Tell us who you are and what you're doing.
Oh my gosh, well, it is such a pleasure to be here at ETHDenver this year, and thank you so much, Jessica, for pouring through my book. It means a lot. I have to say it feels surreal today, even when I see somebody holding a copy of my book in their hands. But yeah, who am I? I feel like everyone to some extent has almost forgotten themselves when they enter the crypto space. So one thing I like to ask everyone is, who were you before crypto? And that was me, at age 5, growing up in Singapore. Really had no idea what I wanted to do. But after that, I feel like I've had a lot of different lifetimes since before coming into crypto. One that started off with finance. I was an equity investor. I worked for the Singapore Sovereign Wealth Fund. I've had the great opportunity of meeting Kobe Bryant at an investor day. I founded a fitness studio. I then went on to work for a mixed martial arts promotion. And so it feels like I've done a whole bunch of crazy things. And so you may be wondering, what on earth am I doing in crypto? But I guess 3 years ago, when I moved from Singapore to the US in the middle of the pandemic, I decided I had no way of meeting people in person. The only way I could do it was to dive into internet communities, and that's exactly what I did. I entered Discord, which is funny because I don't use Discord anymore. But I entered Discord, and I basically posted a message in the beginning of 2022 just saying that I love everything that I've learned so far about crypto. I love how the technology empowers people. I love how it's making it easier for creators to monetize their work. I just want to be a part of this cutting edge revolution, even though I knew next to nothing about it. And before I knew it, I met my co-founder, Randy Zuckerberg, yes, that Zuckerberg, sister of Mark, in a Discord server. As you can see, I wasn't even using my real name. I was behind a random avatar. Those emojis actually behind Sephironova were part of a yacht. I don't know who around here had a yacht domain URL. But anyway, I went on to become the co-founder of an Onchain creative community and marketplace called Hug. We've grown to over 35,000 users across 180 countries. Our mission has been to empower creators to become entrepreneurs through education, through technology, and to really get them to embrace using blockchain as a way to better monetize their creations as well as connect with their audience. And from there, we did some great things. Again, went on, I feel like sliding into people's DMs or just showing up in random internet spaces as well as in person, opened a lot of opportunities for me. And that was my DM to Onchain, if anybody knows who he is. I simply reached out, no agenda. Few months later, him, together with OKX Ventures and L'Oreal, ended up leading our seed round. And we've grown Hug ever since. Not just the numbers that I stated before, but we've also distributed $350,000 of scholarships and grants to help creators really take their work to further places. We've educated thousands of creators and onboarded them to new protocols, whether it's the Rary chain to Lens protocol, teaching them how to collaborate with Stability AI. And all of that has finally culminated into a successful acquisition at the end of last year by the .art domain registry, which is the biggest TLD operator for the arts and creative industry. So excited for this new chapter for Hug and essentially what the .art team is going to do. They have some great blockchain verification tools that will allow artists to better track their work as it changes hands, as it changes ownership, and really facilitating that part of the journey. And so that's a long answer to who I am and why I'm here, but that's been the joy of writing this book and diving into it.
I love that, and I love how serendipitous that whole story is. So I don't know how you possibly had time to write a book in between all that, but I would love to hear, what possessed you to write a book and what this book is about. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the book in a nutshell, it really is 50% accessible guide to crypto. So I feel like talking about it at ETHDenver probably, it's a little bit like preaching to the choir. I should be out on the streets, which, by the way, I told my Uber driver about it yesterday, and I even gave him my merch pack. So hopefully he does go check it out. But it's a 50% accessible guide to understanding crypto. If you are already in crypto, it's really about how to stay sane. I know a lot of us, with the ups and downs, especially the markets, sometimes it gets to be a lot. And even though we don't want to admit it to ourselves, it's really about how do we tune out the noise and really focus on what we're here to do. And 50% of it, which is personally my favorite, 13 in-depth features of these great digital mavericks, so people that I've come to know and respect, people like Jesse Pollock, who obviously created Base, people like Cosimo de Medici, who is a pseudonymous art collector who may or may not be Snoop Dogg. I mean, he's not Snoop Dogg, but as well as a bunch of amazing artists like AI collaborative artists, Claire Silver. So, tons of incredible stories, and really just about how they even entered the space. So similar to how I gave that rather long-winded explanation on how I entered crypto, they too have had an incredible life story. And this bit about entering crypto is really just their new chapter, just like every one of us.
I love that so much. And one of the things that really stuck out to me as I was reading it was about the glow stick moment. I think that's just such a fun way to put it, but could you explain for everybody what a glow stick moment is, maybe what your glow stick moment was, and a little more about that?
Yeah, I think it's funny because so I'm probably the first time I invested in crypto myself was 2019. So it's early for some people, late for some people. I don't know. It depends on how you look at the timeline. But ironically, the crypto that I bought then was XRP, which is hilarious because then it got hit with an SEC lawsuit, and then I was like, well, this is all a sham. Like, I'm never going to put money into crypto again. It's been pretty funny since obviously recently it's been one of the better performing coins, and I still have that bag of XRP, by the way. So I have round tripped it around the moon and back, and now it's like way up. So I feel a little vindicated. Yeah, 5 years later. But I will say that for me wasn't a glow stick moment. That wasn't a time for me where I looked at my investment into XRP, and that wasn't a time where I really got it. And the reason why I use the phrase glow stick moment is because, when you break a glow stick and it just lights up, and all of a sudden you just can't unsee it, and you can't unsee the possibility. And sure, maybe the light fades after a little while, but that is that moment that once you're broken it, there's really no turning back. And for me, that moment really was when I moved to the US, again, from Singapore, and I really kind of got my involvement heavily in the NFT space, and a lot of that came from my consumer background. Even as an investor, I looked at consumer and consumer tech, at the mixed martial arts promotion. It was a very tangible product, right? Like we were selling merchandise, we were selling experiences, and that for me, I felt translated really easily into the world of NFTs, both as we're just really still selling digital goods. We're just doing it in a different way, on different payment rails. And I think the aspect of how NFTs really help people connect with their audiences was truly kind of eye-opening for me, having spent 3+ years trying to build direct relationships between athletes and their fans.
So cool. And that's actually touches on something that I find so fascinating about the space, which is the role of blockchain and NFTs in fan engagement and the connection between artists and their fans. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I think it's, I work the most closely with creators. I know, obviously, blockchain is a huge space. This industry is huge. I think as much as it is niche, it is also very broad. You're going to have people that work solely in DeFi and know everything about DeFi and have no idea who Sam Spratt is, who, by the way, is an incredible artist that is doing some crazy activation that should be all over Twitter if that is what your algorithm is looking at. He's sold work for millions of dollars, and it gets people to write their own interpretation of his work, and it's all part of the blockchain, right? So that's kind of the art world, which again lives really separately. And then we have people building in privacy, and all of that is kind of like a different part. And so I think coming back to how NFTs really help with, owning your audience and owning that engagement. There is this creator that I love. Her name is Naomi, or she goes by Afro Chicks as well. She was actually one of the earliest members of the Hug community, and we knew her because she was an artist. And her name was called Afro Chicks because she drew these really fun, colorful illustrations celebrating Black women hair. And what we then later came to find out was that she's actually a professional triple jumper for Great Britain, and she's currently training to be part of the Olympic team in 2028. That's the next Olympics, yeah. So she's currently training to be part of the Team GB for the 2028 Olympics, and she has been posting her entire journey, putting it on Zora, earning, and Zora's had a big change, just recently and turning everything into coins, but basically monetizing, the effort that she's been putting in, and the people that are there supporting her journey. She could get 100 likes on Instagram, she could get 200 likes on Instagram. This isn't going to pay for her training. This isn't going to pay for, like the new equipment or the new shoes that she's going to use. And so, I think we've seen some really new and novel ways, and obviously we're still at the early innings of it, but imagine how her community is going to feel when she actually does make it to the Olympics, knowing that they were early on. Maybe the tokens or the video that they had collected from her Onchain is going to appreciate in value, and all of a sudden there are aligned incentives between both the creators and the people that support them.
I love it. I think there's so many really cool things that we're going to see happen in the space. But I think one thing that's on people's minds right now is that the market is kind of interesting, to say the least.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for staying sane in this space?
Yeah, and I feel like, to be honestly, that is the biggest thing about why I wrote this book. I'm not a technical person by any means, so I didn't want to come in here and pretend to explain stuff that I wasn't entirely sure how things work under the hood. But I think what I do know is, having worked in startups, well, first of all, having worked in finance, where your entire remuneration and where your entire sense of judgment is completely live. My bonus for every single year was determined by what the markets were doing. And I could see in real time whether the judgment call I made, say if I said, let me invest in Nike at whatever price it is, I could see pretty much immediately whether that was right or whether that was wrong. And again, but then again, whether it was right or whether it was wrong was also very dependent on what time horizon you were looking at. If it was within a week, it might have been a crappy decision, but then, over the next year, it ended up being an incredible investment decision. So I think a lot of that is, being able to frame yourself in terms of what your goals are, and I think that's why I have kind of number 2 here in terms of what is your why, and understanding and holding on to your why. For some people, it's completely about making money, and that's great, good for you. For some people, it's a little bit more than that. For some people, it's really about wanting to make a difference. It's wanting to not be a passive participant. I personally am of the belief that one day we won't even know that all of these things are running on crypto, just like we never really understood. I feel like when the cloud computing came out, I didn't even know what that meant. I don't even know what servers are being used. I don't know if this program is on AWS or on Google Cloud. And frankly, as a consumer, I don't care. And I think as we progressively move towards blockchain adoption, that is what we're going to see as well. And so for me, my personal why is really helping to play a part in shaping the future that I want to see, being a part of great products and great companies that are doing all of that. And I think by holding on to that, it honestly doesn't matter whether the market is up, the market is down. Yeah, did buying X up here at 80 cents and seeing it go down to 20 cents hurt like a bitch? Yeah, it did. But it feels great now. It's back at 250 or whatever it's at now. But that at the end of the day wasn't what was going to keep me going and waking up every single day excited to hit the ground running.
I love that. I always like to say, especially with meme coins, if I'm down, you know what, I'm having fun, and that's all that matters. Yeah. That's so cool. Back to NFTs, favorite NFT you purchased?
Favorite NFT purchase? I have
or created.
Favorite NFT purchase, I mean, I have hated this that I did own a Moonbird, and I feel like so sad too. But I do kind of like their merch. I still have their socks. Like, I think I actually like wearing their socks. But favorite NFT, honestly, I have commissioned a lot of work from artists. So, again, this is kind of holding true to my why, right? Like a big part of my story too is that I grew up in Singapore, very conservative Asian upbringing. Always felt like I had a little bit of a creative streak to me, but I was in a choir, I wrote poetry, I made collages, I did all of these things, as a kid, but never really got the opportunity to do anything with it, or was never even encouraged to pursue it. So I think working with creators was a big thing for me and a big thing that motivated me. And I saw as well, even when I took this travel photography of myself that I had just uploaded on Instagram, and I got like 200 likes, and then I sold it as an NFT for $50. And I mean, it wasn't much, but like that was $50 more than whatever I made from Instagram. And so I think a lot of my favorite purchases have actually come from me reaching out to an artist that I love, and saying that, hey, I have this idea of this really great piece that I want. I'm a massive football fan. I approached this photographer who takes photos of film, called Nathan Bauman. He basically went to scout one of the football fields that I think is just like a high school football field that is at the highest altitude. It might even actually be somewhere in Colorado, actually. And just took this beautiful photo of just the gridiron. And I love that piece. It's so meaningful in the fact that he went there, camera gear, and now I own it as a print, but I also own it on chain. And so that to me are the priceless moments that you can't replicate elsewhere.
I love that so much. Big fan of my crypto dick butt, but football too.
We all love a dick butt.
Who doesn't? I love it so much. Do you remember the first time you learned the word fungible or heard the word fungible?
Yeah. I mean, I guess I knew it I was an econs major, so I knew it in that. I do remember when hearing it in the context of like non-fungible token, it did feel like I don't even know what the alternative is. Like maybe it's just a token, maybe it's something that's tokenized, but it did feel odd. And I think part of it too, it reminds me of this analogy that I always like to use is that, and obviously I'm dating myself, but when, we were younger and we used to, download MP3s off Napster, I guess even though we weren't supposed to. And then, we would turn to our friends and we would go, what MP3s did you download last week? Or like, what MP3s are you listening to? And it's so, it's kind of ridiculous because that's just a file format. That's just the way that you are receiving the music. At the end of the day, it's like, what music are you listening to? I don't even know if, the California DMV has already completed a pilot where the car title deeds are on the blockchain. So technically those are NFTs, but I'm not going to go around and be, oh, my car title deed is an NFT. Like, what about yours? It's just everything, tickets. So yeah, I think when you ask me about the word fungible, we're still going to use it. It has like an actual definition and everything, right? But I think that the way that we approach, and I feel like my publisher also made me put NFTs in the title just for SEO purposes, which I was like semi-annoyed about. But, I think eventually it's going to be one of those things that feels a little dated and we're probably not even going to refer to it anymore.
That's so funny. Well, we're coming up on 2 minutes left here. So just to round this out, any last words or anything people should know about your book, or where they can follow you, where they can learn more, and how they can get involved? I know that you are a fan of just sliding into people's DMs, which I absolutely love. But yeah, if you want to speak about that.
I will say, by the way, I talk, one of my last points here is craft and commit to a ritual. And when I was new in this space, one of my rituals was actually kind of writing a cold DM to one person, at least one person every other day, or like at least once a week, to build a connection, and that's how I built my community. But yeah, in terms of what you guys could do, I am proud of this moment. I think it works. So I'm not a coder, but thanks to the power of AI and I guess what we all now call like vibe coding, I coded my first kind of on-chain app, if you will. So it's just a personality quiz. So, but it's at quiz.digitalmavericks.xyz. You would take a little personality quiz. It's pretty fun. fun. And then at the end of it, you'll get your result. You can share it, and then you can collect one of these comics that is essentially a condensed version of the story that was in my book. The illustrator is this comic illustrator called Dana Ate Oatmeal. And I will caveat, and somehow I kind of feel like this is not a me problem, but maybe a Privy or a mobile wallet problem. But it works best if you do this directly in your mobile wallet browser, or if you're doing it on desktop, I highly recommend MetaMask or Phantom. So yeah, just do it. It's fun. It's free. Also, if you have friends and family who are not into crypto yet, I also managed to incorporate paymasters, so all transactions are sponsored. You don't even need gas. You just need an email address. So yeah, I think it's really fun. I love personality quizzes. I love knowing what people's MBTIs are. So this isn't quite that, but yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Amazing. Well, thanks so much. I'm going to go take this quiz now. And
Yeah.
have a good Denver.
Yeah, and if you want to connect, those are me on socials. My book is on. We're at an Onchain event talking about traditional publishing, but it is on Amazon. It's at Barnes & Noble. I will be at the base booth on Friday, 10 to 12. They have a bunch of books that they'll be selling on-chain there as well, and I'll be there signing it. And I think I have one copy here, so that I'm happy to give to whoever wants it. So if this is of interest, just come find me. First come, first serve.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jessica.